The guy that
Was that in World War II?
Yeah, the GI that shot him.
Say that again, John? I didn't hear. Say that part over again?
I said there was the battle going on, and this captain took off, and the sergeant said, "Stop! You're with us." He didn't stop. He shot him.
Oh wow!
So they grabbed him and threw him in the set. He let him work for 20 years.
Did you know them?
Well, they were in a battalion, yeah.
Wow.
All that shit was going on all the time.
Wow. Is it still recording? Huh?
Yeah.
Should I start reading?
Yeah.
You want to get Claire in? Hi, Claire.
Hi, Claire.
How you doing, Claire?
Is she back?
Yeah.
We reserved a chair for you, Claire. Hi, Claire. We got a chair reserved for you.
Yeah, we cleaned the chair up for you, Claire.
You got your name on it.
Come on in this way. You can come this way. Come right here. There's your chair.
Thank you.
Okay.
I was so worried about it.
You all right?
Yes.
Were you sleeping? Were you sleeping?
No.
No.
No, I was wandering around taking care of some odds and ends.
Who?
Odds and ends. She's taking care of some odds and ends.
Yeah,
Who?
Responsibilities.
Just things that I needed to touch base on or take care of.
Oh.
Those little things that stack
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, here we go. The tension increased as we saw the steady line of trucks, guns, and men retreating from the surrounding villages. The stragglers, their face black with powder burns and their eyes red from lack of sleep, were dazed and terrified, all uttering the disaster and the onslaught of the tanks and more tanks. The Ardennes battlefield was a mess, a scene of undescribable and utter chaos. No one, German or Americans, private or general, knew what was actually happening. The thought, or I knew, that it was fortunate in a sense to be detached to an experienced unit, rather than face the utter deadly confusion with sergeants from our division. I would rather face the enemy aided by the 2nd or 3rd Armored, or the 101st or the 82nd Airborne. By 2400 hours in Germany, and the excited citizens were reading and listening to thrilling news of the great offensive. The radios were spewing out a triumph news of the German tanks and the infantry forcing the enemy to surrender in droves, also saying that the Americans realized that the battle was over for them. So that was a lot of propaganda.
Yeah.
A lot of propaganda. There was much panic in and behind the Allied lines. In all the towns and the cities, not only in Luxembourg and Belgium, but in France and Holland, they all remained in the Blitzkrieg in 1940. Our ammunition was getting really low, and I scrounged around town to locate an ordnance depot or somewhere we could be distributing ammo of all kinds, that is providing that they had any on hand.
Wow.
Running out of ammo, bad thing.
Yeah. You would think
Bad thing. There was so much confusion and constant hurrying about that I did not have much luck in finding anything resembling an ordnance depot. What was usually the case in the past weeks was the ammo and the weapons were passed out to troops as they went by. Also, in some instances, case of hand grenades and M1 ammunition were put alongside the road in a separate piles, so that the men could pick up things they need as they went by. At this point, events were so hectic and out of control for any semblance of orderliness. It was just a matter of luck in finding any. I asked one of the MPs on traffic duty if he knew of any place they had ammo. He was not much help, as he was too preoccupied in keeping the traffic flowing. I finally came upon a supply building and inquired if they had any ammo. The sergeant in charge took me to the cellar, which displayed a huge cache of arms and ammunition. I quickly asked if the Germans knew of this spot, and he smiled and he said he hoped not. I struggled with a case of 30 caliber for the gun and a box of 39 caliber for the M1 carbines. I waited outside to see if I could catch a ride back to our position. After I had waited around for several minutes, a 6x6 came by and I hitched a ride back to our area. I gave each of the ammo barrels 2 boxes of 30 caliber for the gun. How big were these boxes? Ammo boxes for the 30 caliber?
Like an egg box.
About this big?
No, not that big, no. Yeah.
Was
They
it
were
the-
they were
was it-
longer
was
than, they
it
were
the
longer
green-
than wider.
Was it the green ones with the metal handle? Metal? And you pop them open like that?
Yeah.
And how many rounds were in those boxes?
There's probably 30 or 40 clips.
Did
The
you,
clips are loaded up, yeah.
did you need more?
Huh?
Did you need more than that?
Well, it all depends what kind of a box you got.
With all the rounds that you shot, did you have any rounds that were complete duds?
Right?
All the rounds of ammunition you shot, was there any rounds that were complete duds?
Complete what?
That didn't fire?
They misfired?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the gun got so hot it got heated up, couldn't fire. That's when they had the machine guns water cooled.
Yeah. Okay. As far as food went, we had not had a hot meal in over a week, and our care rations were getting quite low. I suspected we would have to crash a mess hall shortly or to sustain our energy and spirits. I thought better of the idea after hearing that they were pulling out drivers and all sorts of rear echelon people, giving them a rifle and sending them off to help ward off the onslaught of the rapidly deployed German tanks and artillery, infantry. So you're telling me even the American infantrymen, they were giving the rear echelon weapons to fight.
Yeah.
Not just the foot soldiers, but people that were generally not riflemen, were giving them rifles and saying, "This is your time." Right?
Well, they were short.
Well, we were attached to the armored company 6 miles north of Bastogne to help slow the drive of our Germans in town. We had heard that an advanced unit of Panzer Division did not roll into Margaret, a village 5 miles west of Bastogne, until 200 hours. In Margaret, the Panzer unit stumbled into a bunch of American trucks and ambulance. Firing broke out, and the Germans discovered that they had captured a hospital unit. What would they do with the hospital unit if they captured them?
Probably shoot half of them.
Oh, no. Wow. It was foggy and bitter cold, and we sat all night in our dugout watching the road ahead for any movement of tanks and infantry. We had nothing to eat but several K rations and water from our canteens. Lape was asleep at the gun, as were mostly the rest of the squad, adjoining in foxholes or slit trenches. I had been awake most of the night, anticipating the Germans breaking through at any moment. There were talk that we'd be pulling back shortly, as the Germans were massing another huge attack. Okay, that was Chapter 10, Church Service and the Bulge. Now we're going to start on Chapter 11, Snow, Bunkers, and Panzers. Here we go, page 282, Chapter 11. Would you want some water?
No.
Would you want some water, Claire? I'm fine. Okay. I threw a couple of pebbles into the foxhole and slit trenches. What's the difference between a foxhole and a slit trench? How would you make
The
them?
slit trench is built up with heavy logs. It's built up with heavy logs overhead too. That
Okay.
needed a bit overhead shrapnel. A trench was just, you dug a hole, got into it. You were vulnerable.
What, in your opinion, was safer?
The trench.
The trench was safer?
The trench was covered up with logs.
Well, why would some soldiers build a slit trench and the other was dig a hole? Why would some?
Well, some of them had time to do it. They said, look, you got a couple of days before they come on you, build a more reinforcement category.
And that'd be a foxhole.
It wouldn't be a foxhole, no.
What would it be?
It would be a trench covered with logs on top, and you'd be dug in with a little slit trench in the front. You were more safer than shrapnel and everything else.
Did you build those?
Sure. But then the enemy would get the flamethrowers out and build the wood up, and then you got to get out.
So the enemy would come in with flamethrowers, go to the slit trenches were made out of trees,
Yeah.
and
They set everything on fire.
everything was on fire.
Yeah.
Did you see that, John?
Right?
Did you see them set the slit trenches on fire?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, the Japanese did that too. The Japanese would hide it in tunnels. Americans come in with a flamethrower, open the one end of it, then they got in, shoot the flamethrower, and then it goes zoom right through. Fry everybody that was in there.
I was thinking that the Germans, using these flamethrowers, were one hell of a target. You can't miss them. Wouldn't they be the first one shot if you're coming in with
Well, the flamethrower had a big radius. It didn't shoot straight. As it got out, it waved out. It covered more territory.
Wow. I wonder what they operated them on. What was it, gasoline?
Gasoline, yeah.
Wow. Did Americans use flamethrowers
Oh, yeah.
in the Battle of Bulge?
They used it more in the Pacific than we did.
They used it more in the Pacific to go into tunnels.
Yeah, because the Japanese would dig tunnels.
Wow. That's interesting. Did you ever operate a flamethrower?
Yeah, well, you had to be qualified for everything.
But you used a flamethrower?
Well, I didn't actually use it in combat, but we had it in our TO.
I got you. That's interesting. During the night, we had a couple of probing attacks by the infantry and several combat patrols, and the rest of the supporting infantry quelled with our concentrated firepower. They would infiltrate in twos and threes, and they were a large enough group to advance on us, and then open up while the Schmoser's MP-40 burp guns blazing away at us. What's a burp gun?
A burp gun? It's the half of a machine gun. You held it in your hand. It was more mobile.
Did most of the German soldiers have one?
Well, they had it, but they didn't use them. You had to have certain ammo for it.
Okay. An alert rifleman would call in on his SCR 536 walkie-talkie, and within minutes, 105s and 155s would come screaming into our front. Germans opened up with their 75s.
What's a 105 and 155, John?
105 is a bigger weapon, 75 is a smaller one.
Oh, okay.
With their 75s, and we would join in with our heavy machine guns, along with the riflemen dug in all around us. If we were lucky, that would be sufficient to contain them, or they would break up and fade into the wooded area around us. If the Tiger tanks accompanied them, it was another matter. The 88s were deadly, and our armor was almost impenetrable. With only one soft spot below the driver's position, almost at ground height. Several started toward us earlier in the night, but at the last minute they turned off. We later discovered that they're after a more lucrative target. The columns of stalled Americans' vehicles on the road between Longville and Margaret. The slaughter was devastating. The stragglers from the 9th Armored Division roadblocks and other refugees from the area were panicked by heavy bombardment and the roar of the approaching tanks. Without putting up any show of resistance, they scattered towards Bastogne on foot. We watched as they fled by us. Some had thrown down their weapons and were only concerned with getting away from the oncoming infantry and the Tiger tanks. So you mean to tell me you've seen soldiers running by you that don't even have a weapon anymore?
Oh, when they got shot down?
You said that some of the infantrymen were running by you looking for another town, but they no longer had a weapon. They were just running.
They dropped their weapon and ran.
How
They were
many-
skedaddling. They were skedaddling.
They were getting slaughtered, huh?
Huh?
They were getting slaughtered in that area?
What?
They were getting beat up.
They weren't getting beaten up. They're getting regular attack, that's all.
Yeah.
About how many of those did you see running with no guns?
Soldiers?
Yeah.
Not too many. They kept the pistol away. They didn't give your M1 up. I mean, that was your baby. In training, it said you're stuck with that M1. That was your baby.
Okay. We watched as they fled by us. Some had thrown down their weapons and were only concerned with getting away from the oncoming infantry and en route to join them. I shouted for them to stand fast. It was not my stern voice that constrained them, but the sight of the rest of the men around them staying put in their foxhole that finally quieted them. The highway was a mass wreckage. Almost every vehicle along the column was destroyed or abandoned. There were American tanks and armored cars and self-propelled guns, trucks, and jeeps. Many dead GIs were sprawling among the brightly burned trucks and jeeps. In all, more than 200 vehicles have been captured or destroyed. That's a lot of vehicles. Leip suggested we take off. I said nothing.
Who is it? Leip?
Yeah, Leip suggested we take off.
Was Lake another soldier?
Yeah, he's the one that worked with my dad. He was a side-by-side. Leip was a fellow.
Assistant gunner. Well, it was assistant gunner.
I said nothing but concentrated on the road ahead. A short while later, a captain from the airborne drove up and told us to pull back and make sure we took our weapons with us. I nodded in acknowledgement and told Leip to pull the gun out. I was going to get the rest of the squad together. They were all perturbed at the thought of being left behind, and I assured them we were moving out as I spoke to them. We formed up behind a group of paratroopers and started towards Bastogne, the next town. As we reached the outskirts, we were told to dig in the gun and dig some deep holes for ourselves. I wanted to tell them they were low on ammunition, but there was so much confusion that I gave up the idea and concerned myself with the squad and the gun emplacements. We had sooner gotten ourselves situated than the order came down to move out in the center of town. There was so much confusion, we could have easily taken off and no one would have missed us. As we milled about, resting and waiting for some kind of instruction, a young second lieutenant from the 7th Armored Division came up and motioned to us to follow. We scurried into the back of a 6x6 along with our gun and were driven out of town, down a deserted road. After several minutes of driving, we stopped and were told to dig out our gun and make our foxholes. Boy, you're making a lot of foxholes.
Oh, yeah.
Everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Foxhole. Then you abandon them and you move on.
And that was hard in the winter time when that road was frozen.
Hard, very
You
hard.
could hear it, you could feel it.
Wow.
There was all these people running around.
We have a couple of years.
They're all at the desk. Visitors going home. Visitors going home.
After the lieutenant had gone, Leip wanted to know why we were getting all the grubby details. I asked rather disgustedly if he would rather be in 106 right now at this moment. He did not reply. I thought of Fink for a moment and how I missed his common sense and mature judgment. I thought the opposite of Leip, as he was how fortunate we were to be attached to a more experienced outfit rather going it alone as a Green Division. I only had to think of the 106 to mutter to myself, "There, but for the grace of God go I," and I sent a part of the 106 back to the States for a short while. I could not see much difference between them and the 75th. They were both loaded with disgruntled ASTP and Air Corps GIs, with monotonous for getting out the infantry back to their soft cushioned assignments. The infantry was something you wanted no part of, and you certainly did not speak to its alteration and admiration. I was no hero, nor was I gung-ho, but I felt that I had a duty to my country and to the soldiers serving within me to do the best I could and still keep myself in one piece. By dusk that day, Wiltz surrounded, and the darkness came in an all-out assault in 3 directions. Communications within the command post was lost. So you're basically getting assaulted on 3 different parts, and there's no communications whatsoever.
No.
Zero. Communications.
Well, they always had runners. Runners were always running.
Ammunition was almost gone, so now you're getting hit on all 3 angles. There's no communications, and almost all the ammo's gone.
Yeah.
And only a few surviving tanks were numb with exhaustion. I told Leap to fire in short bursts and conserve our animal, and he to fire only when he had a target. So you told Leap, instead of just shooting, only have a target, then shoot, correct?
Well, he was afraid to do that. He knew everybody was a target on him. He opened that gun up, they were right at him.
Yeah. He nodded and glanced at a few remaining boxes of ammunition. There was no sense sending the ammo barrels out, as there was none to be found. They were told to...
They were probably killed.
Yeah. They were told to fire their carbines only when they had a target, and to conserve what ammo they had left. The state of complete chaos and pandemonium had us all bewildered. We did not know what to think. The greatest army in the world was in complete disarray, and we faced the prospect of eventual capture by the enemy. The scout from the 7th Armored Division, sneaking through the several enemy roadblocks, reported to the CP in town, and there was no reinforcements coming. Wiltz was considered lost, and all the supplies and the troops were sent to Bastogne. Wiltz was in the 28th Division sector, and it was here that the Germans made their largest gains. The left flank of the 28th was forced to withdraw into the outer banks of the Orth River, and the right flank was pushed back an additional 1 to 4 miles. It was in the center of the division that the enemy made its deepest penetrations. Everyone else, the Americans' withdrawal, had been 4 to 6 miles. So the Americans were really withdrawing heavy at this time.
Say again?
The American troops were really withdrawing heavy at this time.
Well, they were in the right spot. They were in the right spot to get it.
The weight against the 28th Division was so overwhelming that thin defenses disintegrated and the enemy achieved a breakthrough. In the withdrawal, a wide gap created through which the enemy pushed a great deal of armor. Enemy thrust between strong points encircled companies and destroyed or captured by one. There was a complete disintegration of the regimental defenses, and the 28th Division command post itself was attacked when the enemy approached Wiltz. Many stragglers were falling back through the town, and the roads were jammed to the south and west, but no attempt was made to hold any of these men. American units were helter-skelter all along the road and were making little or no effort to adjust themselves to the situation or set up a local defense. We were told that the German tanks and the infantry were pouring in from the south along a Wiltz-Bastogne road. Many stragglers hysterically shouted what they saw. The German tanks were wider and low-slung and much larger than a Sherman. Behind the tanks came armored cars, the half-tracks, and more giant tanks. All the vehicles were marked with a black cross, and the men in them wore black leather jackets. Some of the tanks carried German paratroopers behind them, and the infantry in their white camouflage jumper uniforms. Strong columns, Volks, Grenadiers hacked the tanks and were sweeping away everything in the path of attack that was fast approaching Wiltz. The command center received its final message: withdraw from your present position if they become untenable. German paratroopers has been spotted a few miles on the east, and the enemy patrols were seen far behind American lines. No one knew where the enemy was coming from. Frontline survivors in small, large groups struggled through slippery snow, looking desperately for refugees, keeping together in the darkness by hanging on to each other's cartridge belts. Riflemen had dropped their Christmas packages, bedrolls, shelter hats, overcoats, even their food and rifles. When they become too exhausted to go on, they bedded down in the snow or a shallow foxhole, but they were too cold and miserable to sleep. Even every noise was terrifying, for they knew the Germans were on all sides. It was almost 2,400 hours, and the shells were exploding in the streets of Wiltz, and the regular guard defenders fell back from the lower Wiltz to the upper town, and then down the road to Cafe Schumann Crossroads. 3 miles southwest of Wiltz, which by now was deserted, the Germans, crowding from all sides, hesitated they would make up the final assault at dawn. We were told to break up in small units, 10 to 12 men, and infiltrate back through the Germans. We were to take necessary equipment and ammunition and destroy the rest. I decided to destroy the gun, as we had only a half belt of ammo for it, and it would be burdensome to carry. How would you destroy a gun?
Huh?
You were told you had to destroy the gun.
Security gun?
Yeah, how would you destroy a gun?
Take the firing pin out and throw it on the ground and then get your shell and beat the hell out of it.
So that you're at the point where you're destroying some guns.
Yeah, they were used against us.
Yeah. Wow. So what gun did you end up keeping?
Huh?
Good night, Claire.
Good night, sir.
Take care.
You also.
Good night. What gun did you end up using if you destroyed one gun?
What?
You said you destroyed a gun. What gun did you end up using? Good night, Claire.
Good night, good night, good night.
Yeah, what gun did you end up keeping on you?
The what?
What gun did you have once you destroyed the big gun?
Big guns?
Yeah, which gun did you
I
carry?
usually carry your carabiner until you lost your carabiner, or an M1.
Okay.
When
Pistol is useless.
When they told you to destroy the guns, did you think that it's really bad here now?
Yeah, it takes the gun because they knew the destroyers were going to take advantage of it.
So you thought at this time it was really bad for your...
Throw the firing pin out and then whack it with a shovel or something, that's it. Well, those were desperate moments now. We were outnumbered, we were bottled up in that. But that all changed, They did the 102nd pulled in, 82nd pulled in, 101st pulled in.
I destroyed...
They were dropping paratroopers by the numbers. Strikes were coming out of the sky. Thousands at a time, coming down.
How many?
1,000 paratroopers.
Of Americans?
Yeah, Americans.
And so, well, instead of me reading right now, tell me how it all played out.
Wait, 1 second.
1 second.